búsquedas y aprovechamiento de información de patentes.
Alexander Agudelo, partner, Colombia, OlarteMoure. Sharon Crane, Deputy Secretary General from the CPI, United States. Moderator, Monique Rodrígues Teixeira, partner, Brazil. Good morning. A pleasure. Thank you for being here on time. Thank you for being so early after last night's event and for doing the effort of being here. So let us start with this workshop. We're going to talk about the search and the use of patent. We have Sharon Crane. We have Monique Teixeira. Sorry, the party last night. Monique Teixeira and yours truly, and I would like to introduce you to them. I will share their profiles. Give me a second. So let us start with Sharon. Sharon comes from the United States. She's an advisor in the firm Haynes & Boone from Washington, D.C. in intellectual property, and her practice is focused in the management and obtainment of patent and on post-concession management. Sharon is specialized in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. Beforehand, she had a degree in biology, in behavioral biology, a postgrad in neuroscience, and a PhD in genetics and biomolecular and from Johns Hopkins. She focused herself in the biology of, and after a postdoctorate from a pharmaceutical company, she started as a technical advisor in an intellectual property firm while she was attending the George Washington Law School. The extension of her training allows her to advise her clients in order to translate their innovation into patents for the development of their businesses. Sharon is passionate about biodiversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility in the legal services, especially in mentorship for women. Journal Secretariat of FICPI, and she is focused in webinars in biodiversity and in planning and the provision of patents in the FICPI meetings. This global network is highly specialized in order to always be in the forefront of all the different innovations and to provide invaluable resources for the obtainment of patents for different jurisdictions. Thank you very much, Sharon, for being here with us. And we have Monique. Monique is an agent of intellectual property, and she is from Dannemann from Brazil. She started there since 2008. Her degree she's a pharmacist, and she is a specialist in patents from the Japanese Office of Patents and the Center of the Intellectual Property. She works in patents and provides assistance to her clients in a very wide variety of services like the pharmaceuticals, hygiene, food, technology, oil, and the technological and other areas. So thank you very much, Monique, for being here. Well, I am Alexander Agudelo. I come from Colombia. I'm a partner of the firm OlarteMoure. My degree is in chemist, and I have a master's degree from Canada, and I am an attorney from the Polytechnical University of Colombia. I have worked in intellectual property, especially in patents for over 30 years, and I have been also a part of the testing group from the Patent Office of Colombia. I've been there for 19 years in this firm, and I have a very robust practice. I have participated in topics that have to do with prosecution, administrative, other issues, and litigations in pharma and in telecommunications mainly. For more than 10 years, I've been working with Omni in different training workshops dictating mainly different seminars for the obtainment of patents and whether physically or online. So thank you very much to you all for being here. Let us take advantage of the time and let us start. The idea is for us to be able to cover three wide variety of topics with regards to patents. So first, Monique is going to start by talking about the importance and the type of search for patents, and she's going to explain in very general terms how to structure the document of the patent in order to and undertake the patent search. Monique is going to speak in English, and so I am going to then talk about the different type of patents and a very quick and general introduction about the different search equations used for that matter. Sharon is going to cover some general information about the very well known databases with regards to patents. She's going to talk about Google, Spacement, Patent Scope, and Lens. So let's make the best of it. Feel free to participate. We hope that we can have a very interactive and interesting session. Let us now start, and we will be waiting for your questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having you here early morning, not so early, but to have you all. So in order to begin our workshop regarding searches, I just wanted to figure out with you all the parts of a patent document. So actually, I just want to show you the requirements for filing a patent application. Actually, the parts of a patent application. So the first one is the specification. So the specification, it describes the fields of the invention, the part, the concept of the invention, and also the practical examples and comparative ones. So basically, the background, it is very, very important to a patent application, especially because it is which will guide the importance of this invention. So it corresponds, the description of the product, we know the background of the invention, this corresponds to the description of the techniques prior to the development of the invention. So before we start drafting a patent application, we need to perform a search, obviously, in order to see what are the information available at the time before the filing of the application related to that field. The objectives of the invention, it corresponds to what the applicant of the application aims to achieve with that invention, which problems this applicant is solving, and all the effects, superior effects, better effects that the invention provides to the product, and also the detailed description of the invention. It will show to the examiners the importance of that invention to that field of technology. And we always call the heart of the patent, it is defined by the claims. So the claims are which will define the patent rights of a patent after granted. So all the patent rights will be restricted to the scope granted to the claims. The drawings and the sequence listing, it depends of the field of technology, so they may apply or not. And also the abstract, it is necessary, it is a summary of what the invention deals with. So a patent search is a process of identifying existing documents related to an invention, an idea, a concept. And is a patent search a legal requirement? Yes or no? No, it is not a legal requirement. It is right. But the patent search is crucial so that you will be able to figure out if you have any prior document which will hinder you to obtain a patent. So it is quite important. And also, we'll show you if you will infringe any third party's rights. So it will give you the green light to go to the market or not. And why to do a patent search? to monitor a development or to know the prior art in a specific technology, to determine if an invention exists or it has been already patented, and also to have the green lights to enter the market. And we call the trend search, these definitions I just gave you defines the trend searches or survey, the prior art or patentability searches, freedom to operate searches, which we call FTO. And something very important when you decide to perform a search is to define correctly the keywords. Because if you decide to have very, very broad keywords, obviously the searches will not be that useful because you have a bunch of information that you'll not be able to analyze and to check. And obviously you have higher costs and less effective results because you'll not be able to analyze them. And regarding a trend search or a survey, when to request it? Always before starting the development of a new technology. Because you just have an idea of you want to obtain or to start developing or doing your experiments, and you just want to have an idea of that. So what do I have? So should I have this path or the other one? So the purpose is to conduct a general survey of national and foreign, not only patents and patent applications. So we also search for non-patent documents, and it is quite important, related to a generic technology. And also to verify which solutions already exist and avoid spending resources and research into non-patentable technology or technology that violates third parties' rights. And to serve as a guide for the development of a patentable technological solution. So the survey we perform before we start the development of a new technology. In the prior art and patentability searches, we perform after you have already developed some innovation product or innovative product or process. And it is necessary that you have a concrete solution. So you had already developed something, a solution, or something that came up with a very higher and expected effects. And then you will start from this point. You already have something on hand, and you want to just to confirm if there is something in the prior art, existing prior art, already describing that. So the purpose is to access whether the technology developed can be protected, can be eligible to protection, that is, if it meets the requirements of novelty and inventive step, to identify which features of that technology are different from the prior art. So, okay, we are quite similar, but these are the difference, and I am able to show you which unexpected effects or which yields, for example, I can offer you if you use my process or if you use my product. And also to assess whether modifications are necessary in the product or process in question to enable its protection, because many times you have something very similar, but you are able to make any modifications in the process or in the product in order to design around sometimes to obtain, to make your patent application eligible to protection. And the well-known FTO, freedom to operate search. And when to request? So when you have the intention to enter some specific, some local market, and you do not have any. So I have this product. I just want to make sure that I'll not be infringing any third party's rights. So I perform a freedom to operation search in order to have the green lights to enter the market and not to infringe any third party's patent rights, because this can make you seize the commercialization in the country And also, it makes you to pay some damages for infringing some patent rights for someone that has not allowed you to do so with no license, for example. And the process is to verify whether the product or process that the inventor or company wants to use, sell, offer for sale is covered, protected by a third party's patent in the country, or if it is available for exploitation in the country, and to assess whether modifications are necessary in the product to avoid violating patent rights. This is also possible. So I cannot use this process. So maybe if I do not use this specific purpose, I can be able to enter the market. So some modifications may be needed or necessary. So here I just gave you just a very brief, and I wanted to know if you have got exactly what I want to mean, and I want you to link each situation, I'll give you 4, with the types of searches we have. Just a quick review here. So scenario 1, we have a new product was developed by company Z. There are already equivalent products on the market. Therefore, company Z does not have the intention to try to patent this product, but wishes to ensure that there will be no problems with third parties' patents. What kind of search is this? FTO? Everyone? FTO? Yes, FTO, you're right. So they are worried about entering a market and just want to check if they have green lights to do so. So, okay, I can enter Brazil, I can enter Argentina, I can enter United States. So I want to be sure that I'll not be faced with any problems when using this product in that local market. And the second scenario is that a group of researchers is starting a new line of research for the development of a new product. Before focusing the efforts in a particular line of research, they would like to know what is being developed in this particular field of expertise. So which type of search do you think that it should apply here? Survey, prior art search, or FTO? Survey? Priority? They have a new line of research for development of a new product. So before is the keyword, focus the effort. So what do you do before? The survey. They have not developed yet, but they want to just to make sure which line they should go, to right or left. So the survey search before the development of something, a process or product comes. So that's why this is the survey search. The target?
Yeah, the target of the survey. I conducted, but who's going to answer my questions during the survey? Or is internal in the company?
No, you can do it internally, or you can hire someone to do. So you just the office that works for your firm to your company and say, hey, we just have a line. So could you please just give me a bunch of searches about this field, this line of product data? Because here is not specifically described. It only says the line product, okay? But you have to give some keywords so that the attorney can perform the search for you. So you have to give some hints, because here is very, very general. Just to give you the scenario about, I know how to detect which type of searches I should use.
But it would be more about like how is the market not exactly legally talking or of applications?
Not
both?
at this time, because you have not developed the product yet. So once you have developed, you have a concrete product, then you have to worry about, so if I enter this market, maybe I will infringe some third parties, right? So that would be FTO. So, oh, I have this product. So I want to file a patent application for this product. So could you please perform a prior art, a patentability search? So that would be the scenario.
Okay, many thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. The other scenario is that company Z uses process X for the manufacture of product Y. Process X is well known in the field of expertise and is used for several other companies. After a long research, Company Z modified some steps of said process X and achieved a significant increase in the yield of production of product Y, while reducing the costs related to the process. Now, Company Z is interested in patenting the new process and wishes to evaluate the chances of success for obtaining this patent. So which type of search would be this one? You that made the question. Which type? Yeah. Yes, exactly, because they are using a process that is well known and used by other companies, but they have performed some changes, some modifications in the process. So now they want just to confirm, hey, maybe I could get some coverage for this process. So please check my attorney, call the attorney, so I have this process, could you please perform a prior art search? So that's the prior art search or patentability search. And the last one, Company A developed a device for applying a herbicide composition at crops in the field. Even though Company A believes that this new device is novel and inventive, they are aware that other companies have devices with similar functions. Therefore, Company A wishes both to evaluate the chances of success in obtaining a patent and to evaluate if there is any risks of patents owned by third parties to be infringed by this new device. Which type of search or searches would apply to this scenario? Survey, prior art, freedom to operate. Yes, that's good. Prior art and also freedom to operate. They want to perform both. They want to confirm if it is okay to have coverage, patent coverage for this process, and also if used would infringe on third parties' patent rights. So here it would be necessary to perform two searches, okay? And just regarding prior art searches, I just wanted to tell you something. When we are talking about oppositions, this prior art search can be used against a patent. So I can ask my attorney to, hey, I have this patent and I want to file an opposition against this patent. So I want every and single prior art document I can use against the grant of this patent. So this prior art search can also be used in a opposition process. So I can use it for my good, my own good, just to check if my product or process can be eligible to patent. And also if I want to hinder someone to get coverage by patent coverage in some patent. Okay? So thank you so much. I hope I assist you to have just a quick view on the types of searches. Thank you.
Gracias, Monique. Muy interesante.
Thank you, Monique. Very interesting. So, in this second part of this presentation, I will be talking about a little bit about the classifications of patents and also very generally on the search equation so you can have an idea on how this works in the patent world and how to do the prior art search. So before going into the two topics specific, I want to talk a little bit that Monique mentioned. And it's the importance of having access of the information of patents in the databases. First, the databases of the patents are very rich in information. In fact, that is where the most technical information exists. When some of you maybe, we have technical professions in universities. They normally teach us that articles is where you have to go to search for information, of scientific information. And that is incorrect. In reality, where you can find the most technical information is in the databases. Any of the databases that we're going to be looking at, and Sharon is going to be sharing later on too, are databases that have an infinity of documents, more than 200 million documents each one. All the patents are published. During the process of patent, there's a phase, an initial phase of the process in which all the patents are published. And once they're published, they go into these databases. And those databases are free. Some may have some additional services, but the sources are the same. The ones that we will see today with Sharon are free. And the access to the information of the patents, besides it's free, it's open. You have to analyze all the searches that Monique was teaching you about. But depending on how you use that information or where you have that information, that is information that you can use freely. Because depending on how you access this and use it, that's information that's in public domain. So that's why it's so valuable to access the databases of the patents to be able to search for information, technical information. Also, there's other advantages, very big advantages in these databases. First, legal requirement on how those patents are written. It has to be clear information and complete information. It has to be understandable in the technical medium and also complete, so that the invention that is described therein, eventually another person can do this, or it could be reproduced. It is ordered. That's what we're going to be seeing a little bit later. All the patents are classified. They're technically ordered, and that's also helps in the access. It's also very structured, because all the patents, which is what Monique was helping us to understand at the beginning, more or less in the world, they're configured in the same way. More or less they have the same parts without care of the language or the country. So it is simple. It is a simple manner, knowing how you can approach a document of patents, because it's uniform in a global sense. All the sectors of the technologies, you can find patents for whatever you can imagine. Whatever you can imagine, most likely there's a patent for that. And considering this is public information, there's no publicity. So those are a few of the advantages. The offices of the patents have a long time already organizing their information. And it's one of the sources of information besides the ones that are more organized to be able to get information. And also, those advantages, specifically the structured ones and access ones, there's another advantages for the patents. One, normally, it is the first possibility that it exists so you can access to certain technical information. Remember that during the process of the patent, there's a requirement that's called novelty. And that requirement of novelty, it forces you that information that you want to patent has not been shared before. So normally, the information that's in the patent, that's the first time that you can access to that once it's published. Also, the information that's in patent in some of the public publications, sometimes they're not published of that information in other sources. Sometimes some of the publications say that 70% of the information that in the patents is not published in another publication. So when we are doing an analysis in a technical matter, it's very basic that you can go to the databases of those patents. It's very detailed, as I was saying before. It's a legal requirement. And because of that very detail, it offers information that's complete to be able to solve technical problems. Remember that the patents, what they're protecting is inventions. And the inventions are technical solutions to technical problems. So that description in the document of the patent normally it's complete and directly applied in real life. Also, another type of search, survey, or monitoring that Monique was talking about, or maybe or surveillance technological survey, which are a little bit more detailed. It gives me a lot of information, not only technical information, but also commercial information. I can find trends, also the parties, the different people involved. And Sharon's going to be sharing a database that's very interesting, that it's also free, that allows you to get that type of analysis in a very simple manner. And also free to operate, which Monique was also explaining. So I want to specify those items right here that highlight the importance. And for us and as lawyers in IP, having being aware to explore and be able to develop those capacities to use the information of the databases of the patents. So how do you search? That's one of the hardest parts, and not because it's hard to search, because the databases they're friendly more and more, and all of us are doing searches on the internet every day, and it's not so different from that. Obviously, you have to be able to be sophisticated a little bit more than normally to be able to do searches for the patents, but it's not impossible to make searches in the patents. You need to practice. You need practice for that. And obviously, you need to understand the topic. What are you searching for? And also, to be able to guide your search with this introduction that Monique gave us, why are you looking for this? What is the purpose of doing this search? Because depending on that, your purpose of doing that search, you will use different strategies, different databases, or you can structure your search in a different manner. So you have to talk, you were talking about technical information. One of the first requirements is knowing about the matter. You have to know the technical matter to be able to establish the parameters, the correct parameters for the search. Once those parameters, the correct parameters are determined, the search in the databases are very common. The main aspects of doing the search are pretty normal. So once you know this topic and you have established the technical parameters that are going to configure the factors that you are searching for, then you will establish how you will look for this. That knowledge of the matter will give you the possibility to be able to have a language for that search, to be able to develop the strategies, to be able to get that information. And that language of the search is going to combine a few parameters. When you are doing a search of patents, you do not limit only one parameter of search, but you will be doing a combination of parameters to be able to cover many options that the databases will give you. So you start to use different elements. You will have, obviously, you will use keywords that are related to the technique, and also to the specific object that you want to get information from. You will use classification, and we will be explaining a little bit more detailed in a little bit later. Classification of patents is very important, and that's important for your searches. You will do equations for the searches, and in patents also it's very important to have the information, the bibliography information, and that is included in the covers of the patents. So you will find who are the inventors, who are the owners of the patents, what is the chronological framework of a patent, when was it published, when was it presented, what country, what coverage, given patent. So all those different elements of the bibliography, depending on the interest and the purpose of the search, you will also be able, it could also be part of that structure of that strategy for the search. And we want to center a little bit more in classification. Classification of the patent is a tool that the offices of patents have developed to make the search easier, because there is so much information of the patents that just with keywords may be insufficient. So classification of patents, what they have done is to order the documents of the patents and to be able to determine a code of classification, a correct code that's useful for the search that you want to do, and you will be able to eliminate those limitations that are depending on the language. Because if you do a search with a code, it does not matter in what language that patent is. If it's correctly classified, you will be able to find it. So it makes it easier to the access of patents that may be in other languages, or that maybe they're described incorrectly, or maybe they have a different terminology. But if it's correctly classified, you will be able to find it with the code. So also because that it allows you to obtain the documents, and it will give you more to be able to get patents that are related, that share maybe the same specification, the same classification codes. Also, that classification, and we will see this a little bit later, allows you to get information in a general matter of specific centers, areas. There's two areas of classification of patents. One that you may historically have known is managed by WIPO, and it was created more or less in the 70s. And that is the base. That's the base of the current classifications that we use today, nowadays, and it's broadly used globally. Many countries, I would say the majority, officially, they use this international classification of patents of the WIPO. This one has 80,000 classifications. This index. So this one is one of the most used. The second classification that is becoming more popular, because now it's being used by patent offices that are very renowned globally. It's the cooperative classification. If I'm not mistaken, it started to settle towards 2010. I believe it's 2010, and it's an effort that the Office of Patents of the United States with the Office of Europe, based on the international classification, they're very similar, to be able to broaden that classification of patents of WIPO. That classification, the cooperative, has many codes, around 250,000 classification codes, and something that's very important that WIPO does not have is that it includes an additional section, which is the Y section, that is for new technologies, technological, climate, and in this Y specification, it allows you to have searches for those type of matters that are new, let's say. And many patents, many offices of databases of patents in the world, they use both, and we will see this in the publications a little bit later. So how do the classification of patents work? So I have this example just so you can see how this is structured. So this is a classification of a patent, A23420. This is an international classification. And I want to emphasize before we do something, both classifications, the IPC or the CPC, the cooperative or the WIPO, have the same structure and the same base. All those 80,000 codes of the IPC are included in the CPC. It's the same classification, just that the CPC has a lot more and has this new section. So once you do a search of CPC classification, most likely you will find the IPC or the other way around too. So how does this work? Any of the two classifications, they have the same structure. So as I was saying, this is a configuration of the code. And let's see how each one of those terms within this code has a meaning. And it goes from the general to all the specifics part. It's very specific. The general is a section. Section A, current needs of life. So it could be anything pretty much. It doesn't say much, right? 23, it's a class. That's food products, and treatment. So now we're talking a little bit something. It's about life, but it's related to food. And N, machinery or devices to treat the fruits. It's a little bit more specific now. And main group 4, it's machinery to treat the fruits themselves. And then subgroup 20, that's for pineapples. So now let's see this amount of specifications that you can have in the code. It's machinery specifically to be able to disintegrate a fruit, a pineapple specifically. If you go to this classification code, you will find things that are very specific, very, very specific. This is part of the art and the utility, the usefulness to be able to how to know the searches of patents to get exactly what you need. And having a search with this code, in Go, you have 175 patents, documents related to machinery to debone specifically pineapples. In Europe, you have 236. So now you can see the strength to be able to use codes of patents, of classification of patents. That is very specific. So where do you search the classification patents? It could be IPC of WIPO or CPC. In case of IPC, the WIPO site, if you go into the site, you could put IPC patents, and you can access the classification. This is a database that has those 80,000 entries where you can have a search. You can do it manually, but obviously unless you know the technology and the classification codes, you will be able to do it manually. If not, you will get lost on those 80,000 entries that you have. But the example that we were looking just before, we were in the A, and it's A all the way through H. And those 80,000 entries are distributed in this index over here. So if you know the classification, you can just type it over here, and you will be able to go to the definition of the classification and be able to see the list of the codes. But if you do not know the classification, this database of WIPO has a tool that's called search, and every time it works better and better. It's very simple, but it works better and better every time. So in search, you can write in normal language whatever you want to write, whatever you want to search. And the database will give you various classifications that are related. In this case that we're looking at, if you put pineapple, it will go directly to that classification. So this tool, this search tool in the website of WIPO is very useful. And CPC, there's many sites also that you can search. I told you before, it's a cooperation between the United States and Europe. I like to use the database of Europe. In the website of the Europe site, there's a tab over here that says classification search. See that it's very similar to the WIPO. And the additional section that I was explaining a little bit later, which is for new technologies. So it works the same way. In the classification search, you can go ahead and you can use terms to find. And in the example of the pineapples, you can go directly to this. So it is worth doing this in many parts because not all the databases work the same. The WIPO would only give you IPC, and the CPC, it's a little bit more broader, but it's worth to complement the searches to be able to have more options of classification. And then all the patents are classified, as I was saying, in the database is the most important ones. They show you the classification of all the patents. And one of the ways of finding classifications, correct classifications, is that is a close patent to what you're looking for. You can go ahead and see how that is classified and what code is classified. And once you know that, you can go and broaden that search using that same code or similar codes. So you can go ahead and search the database of Europe. And you can see in the cover, in the bibliography information, and you can see both. You have the international classification, which is the IPC, the WIPO, and then you have the cooperative, the CPC of the United States and Europe. So in all the searches that you do, you will be able to find the codes in which these patents are classified. And in the United States, in the cover of the patents, you can also find both classifications, IPC and CPC. So this is a very good source to be able to learn in which codes they're classified and other things that may be interesting too. But it's not easy to find classifications. You have to do a lot of work exploring the databases, using those tools to be able to do the searches of codes, because they're very broad, 80,000, 200 something thousand codes. So depending on some of the topics, there's organizations that have tried to do indexes. So if you want to go through, say, wind technology, you can go to Google and you may find someone that has done a search before and can list you some classification codes. For example, a few years I found this because I was doing some analysis. Classification that the OECD did for technologies, converging technologies related to biotechnology and information systems. So there's a lot of reports in which it helps you some classifications in some areas. So this helps you a lot because you have the indexes of the codes and you will be able to do the searches that you need. This is another example. WIPO made an inventory of green technologies, and you have a report where you can see for these technologies, for example, for residual treatment, waste management, the most important ones are this. And for each one of the subtopics, you have these ones over here. So it is important that you do those searches so you can see how they're indexed. So having the classification and other parameters of search, it's worth at this moment that we talk about equations, because you should not limit only using a terminology, or for example, just using the classification. So what you do is combining things, which is what I'm going to explain now. So I told you at the beginning, it's important to know the topic, know the matter. Once you know the characteristics, technical characteristics, and you have this define a search concept, you have to decide what search elements you will use to be able to build those equations, what parameters you will use, technical parameters, keywords, classifications, biography, territories, chronological matters. And once you define all those, the search elements, how will you organize them? How will you structure them? And that is when you start building that equation that you will give the databases so they can do the search. It is important. One of the elements that normally we use besides the classification is the keywords. We use synonyms, you use terms that are related with some of those matters, and always you use dictionaries, technical dictionaries, and also normal dictionaries. There's many elements, many tools on the internet, for example, to be able to find technical synonyms. I like to use this one. It's still there. It still exists. I used it recently, I verified recently, and it helps a lot to find synonyms, because when you're doing search of patents, you cannot use only one word. A patent may say this, and then another one may have the same thing using another term, another word. So it's important to use technical synonyms too. And this database, for example, helps to do concept mapping to be able to find terminology that's related with a specific concept. So I recommend this. There's another tool of WIPO that's very interesting, that's called PER, which also helps try to organize in the language matter many of the elements, technical elements, and you can do search by category, technical categories through the PERL system. So this is a concept map where each one of those balls, it's a technical category, and you can go one by one and finding that language are related to that category, that technical category, again from the general all the way to the specifics, and you start building this concept map with related terminology. So this is very interesting, and this is very dynamic too. You can move this around and see how the words are related. And then WIPO even gives you examples in different languages of patents that are using that language. Maybe not the one that you're looking for specifically, but you can go over and see how that language was used in a patent and what terminology maybe you could use to. I have 5 more minutes. So equations. Once you establish those terms that you will be looking for, you have to start building that equation. And you need experience for that. It's not technology of like space technology, but you do need experience, practical experience, to be able to know how to build good equations. And one of the elements that we use the most are the operators, to be able to include or exclude information, and also to be able to learn how to use those operators. Remember, when you were in school, the the theory of grouping. And what does it do? What does and do? If you use and, what happens? Just let's just go really quick. And what happens if you do and in an equation? It adds. And you can see it over here. It's a group over here. It adds. If you use a term or, it could be either one. Either one of the terminology that's within those. If you use the word not, you are excluding things. And if you use, there's another or that which is very specific, which is an exclusive or, to exclude the combination of specific things not together. So this is not hard in reality. As I told you, it's just practice and starting to write different types of equations for the databases. For example, over here, if you had this equation, how would it be? It would be tennis and ball or racket. What do you think you would get with this one? This equation, this phrase, as it is written over here, it's very confusing for the databases. And for us too. So you have to start using something that we called parentheses to be able to give a little bit more quality for that equation. Those phrases can give you two results, depending how you use the terms. So you have tennis and ball together, or racket, and it gives you totally different results. Or if you put the parentheses in synonyms, it will give you different results too. So again, this is not highly complex, it's logic and just developing experience to be able to do this. I'm going to pass this because my time is up, but I want to show you something that I have at the end. So each one of the databases has their own language. So when you use databases of patents, you have to go to the help section to be able to see how it's used and how you build those equations. So these elements that are called the helper ones are very important to be like a wild card to be able to use. There's things that are very common, using an asterisk to find different types of configurations of a word, using the number key to be able to add other words to a root word, and so on. Depending on the database, there's different tools that you can use. And depending on the database also, you have different resources to be able to build those equations depending on what you want to find. Again, this is practice, but it is worth, if you're interested, that you can just play a little bit with this. So very quick question. Where would you search? When would you search? Because you could do this in the databases or different databases, but it's important to decide in which part of the document you will be searching for. When would you search in the title or the summary of a patent?
What type of search? From the ones that Monique mentioned. Which search you will use in order to do this, because you want to just make a search for one specific thing. FTO? Who else? Well, not a good search only if you want to search the title, but it could give you a lot of ideas. But it's a very general search if you only look for a summary or a title. What about the body of the patent? When you want to enter to the details, then you search in the description, and then you use the FTO for the claims. And so you search for the different ways of syntaxes, and especially you have to determine where you want to do the search. So it is important, just to finalize, it is important for you to know the places and what type of things you want to use and search, using the wildcards, using the different ways for you to obtain different results. At last, what is it that we are observing that is happening, especially with the artificial intelligence and all these things that are happening so fast? Well, yesterday I was sort of playing, and for you to look for classifications, it works very well. I asked it yesterday to search for a classification for some electricity devices, and yeah, it worked. You do have to verify, because this here in the bottom, this is made up. So for example, this 1920 of these rotating head devices, no, it's not real. It could be a very good indicator, but it is very quick and all that, but you do have to verify. So I looked with Copilot, and it gave me the same. So is it worth it for classifications? Yes, but thus you have to go to WIPO in order to search, and just make sure that it is not something that the system made up. Very well. Now, still, these general tools that we use, it still needs a lot more development in order to do this pattern search. I give it a try, and I asked it, look for the United States, which could be the mostly used terms and the synonyms, and that went well. A very useful list of synonyms came out. But when I entered to look for the analysis of the patent, it was not really working, at least in this general search tools. But very shortly, I'm sure that they're going to be better. I was surprised because I asked for a pattern search, and this specific equation structure, and what came out was very good. So this could be a very good way for you to search and make sure which way you want to use, which structure you want to use in order to make a specific search. And then it explained to me why it structured it in this way, why it chose the different words that it chose, and it came really well, and it was very useful. There are other tools that are being sold for the analysis of patents, not only for search, for analysis. I have not used them. This is a commercial information that was given to me, but apparently you could ask this system what are the advantages of this invention, and in accordance to this tool, it could do the analysis. ChatGPT, Copilot are not very good at this, but apparently there are these other tools that are very useful. So thank you very much. I went 2 minutes. So I don't know if you have any questions.
You can see from these excellent presentations of the people who preceded me, this is really complicated. And I wanted to give you, I think it's really important to understand how these searches work. But it's also important to know that there are professional companies that do this for you. So we are all very busy doing other things. So often you might want to seek the help of professionals who know how to do this. I do think it's really interesting what Alex showed at the end, which is how AI and ChatGPT can help you formulate those searches. I think that's incredible. But of course, watch out for your hallucinations always. Yep. I always like to start off with a quote of some famous person who talks about patents and technologies. So since we're limited in time, I'll just let you glance at that. So I'm going to talk about, since this session was called patent searching, I'm going to really focus on searching for patents. But of course, it's important to know, especially with your survey searches, that to look at scientific publications, there are also other databases that you want to look at. One that I use all the time for looking for scientific publications is PubMed. I find that very interesting and very useful to sort of, as a first pass. You can always use Google, which sometimes will give you some interesting results as well, but PubMed's a little bit more specific. So I'm going to talk about a few of these. Mostly I'm going to talk about the ones that are free to use. And when I started off trying to put this presentation together, I thought, well, I'm going to see if I can ask the same questions of various databases. And it turns out that they really all give you slightly different information in slightly different ways. So I didn't try to do that compare and contrast. I'm going to show you some aspects of each one of the databases and some good information that you can get from each one. Some of the ones at the bottom of this list are paid subscriptions, so I'm not going to talk about those. But those, I think, are extremely useful for getting not only the patent searches, but the scientific publications as well. So this is your real basics. So every time I need to download a PDF of a patent, this is where I go. All you have to do is type in the number. You can use the publication number, the patent number. Very simple. It gives you the PDF download. Boom. I have to say that I didn't realize there actually are a lot of other aspects of Google Patents that can help you. So I'm going to go through a few of those. But if you go into the search tools, you can search in a lot of other different ways, not just by the number of the publication of the patent. So you'll see a few things across the top. Text, you can search by whatever concept, sort of broadly like your survey search. And then you can specify, where you want those terms to be in the full document, title, abstract, claims, etc. And then you can use some of those qualifiers at the bottom. You can also look on the left, you can limit to dates, and you can search for inventors. Inventors, assignees, etc., patent office, the language, the type of document, etc. Can also look at whether the case is in litigation as well, which sometimes is very important to you, especially if you're doing sort of an invalidity search, which is one we didn't really talk about. But you might want to know in an invalidity search whether it's involved in litigation. You can use that information to help you decide, do I have to worry about this patent or not? So here you see this very complicated classification. You can search by classification as well. And then there are also other ways, depending on the type of application you have. I do work in pharma and biotech, so I'm going to talk about a couple of ways that you can search for that kind of information. But you can search using chemistry. You can actually, in some of the databases, you can actually put the physical compound in there. Sometimes you can use what's called the IUPAC name, but there are various ways of inputting this information so that you can look for documents that discuss this particular compound. I thought this was interesting. I never really realized this. You can also search by different types of measures, lengths, temperatures, frequencies, etc. I thought that was very interesting. And then you can, of course, search by various numbers, multiple different applications, publications, etc. And you can restrict it in various ways and to different patent offices as well. So I was very pleased to find out that Google Patents actually gives you a lot more information than I realized it did. So this eSpacNet is the European Patent Office's search engine, where you in particular can find European patents. Similar types of things that you can look up, title, terms in title or abstract, etc., by certain numbers, publication, application, priority. You can also look up, and this might be useful if you're doing a freedom to operate search. You can look up, if you know you have a competitor, look up the applicant, and you can find all the patents that that particular company or institution would have. You can also search, of course, by the classification number. Patent Scope is WIPO's search engine, which also I have to say I mostly use just if I want a PDF, if I want to analyze text search, etc. So you can put in really any kind of search term. You can go with just the publication number or the application, the PCT application number, different terms about what might be included in the description, the specification. And then, of course, you can go in and do the advanced search with all the types of terms and connectors, et cetera, that Alex just talked about, which I won't go through again. But again, you can limit it to offices and language, et cetera. Now, this is one search engine that I find is really, really interesting. And it's interesting because basically you can ask it a question and it gives you sort of global information. It can give you information about which company has the most patents, which inventor has the most patents, which country files the most patents. So you really get a lot of very good statistical information very simply out of lens.org. So I just did a few things, clicked on a few of these just to see the types of information that you get. All you have to do is click on the drop down. So under applicants, you can see Samsung seems to have the most patents, and you get a whole list. And of course, load more, and you get a much more complete list. Similarly, if you look up the inventors, I thought that what was interesting, the inventor who has waived his right to be mentioned, anonymous. And then you see, as it goes down, looks like a lot of Chinese inventors are very prolific. And then this is also very interesting for us when you're searching for a firm to help you out. Look at agents and attorneys, and that gives you how many cases that these various firms have filed. You can also, of course, limit to the type of document that you want to look at, and then with biologicals, which is something that I deal with all the time, you can look at sequences, nucleotide, amino acid sequences. You can limit to the type of organism from which those sequences come. And then you can also look at works that cite those particular sequences, etc. How many people do sequence searches and deal with sequence listings, etc.? Anybody? Just a couple. So we're going to talk about a couple of those too, because those are things that I deal with all the time. PubChem is another way of searching for particular compounds, and you can do it a variety of different ways. Down here, you can see that there are various ways of inputting information. You can draw sort of the linear molecule. You can actually draw the molecule in, which is lots of fun. I usually don't try to do that, but there are others in my firm who are better at doing that themselves. So there's various ways that you can search for those those molecules. And then here's where you get to draw, and this is a true art form which I have not mastered myself, but lots of different ways of adding your various elements. And then this is a really fun one if you do deal with sequences. And these are ways of looking at if your client has an amino acid sequence or a nucleotide sequence, find out what else is out there, find out if it's patentable, if it's marketable as well. So there are various ways of doing that. You can search by the nucleotide sequence itself, by the amino acid sequence, and you can get them to go in both directions. So if you have the nucleotide sequence, you can get the protein sequence from that, and from the protein sequence, you can find out the nucleotide sequence that encodes it. And this is called BLAST. Of course, you've probably heard of that term, Basic Local Alignment Search Term. And this is another way of entering information to, I'm sorry, it's rather small, but there's different ways of inputting your information to do these blasts. I won't go through all of it. And of course, anybody who would like copies of these slides, I'm sure that we're happy to share them as well. Yep, that's it. Does anybody have any questions about those search engines or any others that I didn't specifically mention? You can see that they all give you different types of information, and the more you know about your classification, et cetera, the easier it is to try to identify those documents that are going to be important in all types of searches. That's it.
¿Alguna pregunta?
Questions? We run out of time, but if you have any questions or something that you would like to say, let us know. Thank you very much for being here so early. We will see each other around the area. Thank you.